little bit. And her chief of staff, Tim Pearson, he would take my calls and return my calls. There was no problems at all. So I called him immediately. It was at night. And I said, Tim, this is what I've heard. The governor's agreed to this compromise. I need to know if it's not true. Because if it's not true, I won't send out the email tomorrow that I'm going to send out, letting all the citizens know about what she's agreed to. Call me if it's not true, and I won't send out the email. Never heard back from him. He never called. So the next day, or it might have been 2 days, the email went out, which you guys got. And you remember the email, it said something along the lines of, the governor is, she's getting a lot of pressure, and we need to strengthen her, and call her office and let her know that we will accept no compromise. This bill must be effective upon signature of the governor. And you guys did that. You called her office, and I'm going to tell you what, she got a ton of phone calls and a lot of emails, and she was mad. She was furious. But I'm going to tell you what, a week later, when the Judiciary Committee in the Senate had the hearing, and I was sitting in the middle of the second row back, and she and Tim Pearson walked in, she would not look at me. She would not acknowledge my existence, and she sat down immediately in front of me. And when it came time for her to get up and testify, she gave one of the best speeches I've ever heard on why this bill cannot be compromised on, and it must be effective immediately upon the signature of the governor. You did that. You made that happen because she doesn't care what I think.
What happened to Dan Cooper, Talbert?
Well, he got thrown out of office because he refused to have a hearing on that bill. Yeah, so we took out radio time in his, oh, thank you. We took out radio time. For 2 weeks, we ran a radio ad in his district. And all it said was, Dan Cooper won't hold a hearing on the roll call bill. Call him and insist that he hold a hearing. He gave out his number 3 or 4 times in a row. It's a short ad. He never held a hearing on the bill because, you know, Haley called it out of his committee. He would never hold the hearing. That year, he had a challenger by the name of Joshua Putnam, who is currently a member of the House of Representatives. A young college kid. He was, I think, 19, barely old enough to run for office. He had a really, really cheesy website, I have to tell you, and I've told him, he knows. A really, really cheesy YouTube video. And he had a grand total of, I think it was maybe $2,000 in his budget to run. So he bought some yard signs, and he got the yard signs put out. And he lost to Dan Cooper, who was one of the foremost powerful men in the state, chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, the committee that helps write the budget, by I think it was about 53 votes that he lost. So Dan Cooper resigned the next year because he knew if this kid who had nothing for a campaign, no amount of money to run on, only lost by 53, he knew a well-funded campaign was coming in and he was going to go down in flames, and he resigned and took a real cush job as a lobbyist, consultant for Clemson University. All right. So I tell you these stories for a couple of reasons. One is you cannot compromise with the politicians because they will try to explain to you why it can't be done now. And it will sound really, really good why it can't be done now. And a lot of times they will believe it, that it can't be done now. I'm sure Jeannie Horn believed in her heart that she was not going to vote against the I-95 Corridor Authority when she told us that she was not going to. But she had enough pressure that she changed her mind. She didn't know what she was going to do until there was enough pressure to convince her to do the right thing. They will use your bill to gain your liberty and freedom for their political gain if you let them. And they will let it die in the process. You can't let that happen. You're the ones who will make this happen, and you can. It's happened before. It happened with roll call. It happened with the I-95 Corridor Authority. We almost had it with the FOIA. We ran out of time. We waited too late to work on that. But we moved it when they did not want to move it, and we moved it because of calling and accepting no compromise, no excuses, none of that, and forced it to happen. You can do it, and we will do it, and it's really very simple. It's two things. It's one, good communication. You need to be on the email lists of people who will let you know what is happening and when you need to act. And when they tell you to pick up the phone and to call your House member and your senator, do it, because it's not just you, it's all across the state. There's 90-something organizations across the state, just like Carolina Patriots, who do exactly what you do. And when the email goes out, they all get it, and they copy their members on it, and their members copy their friends on it, and it goes out, and believe me, the phones light up, the email boxes, inboxes fill up, and they hate it. They hate it. But they do what they're supposed to do, which is protect your liberty and freedom. That's the way we're going to make this happen. And I just ask you to be involved. It's palmettoliberty.com, and you can see, you can sign up on our email list. Janet does real good with, I send stuff out and y'all have it probably 5 minutes later. But, if she's, set or occupied, then you'll get it directly. But thank you for your time and questions, comments.
Yeah. Let's take about 8-10 minutes or whatever, and then we'll get our petition candidates up here. Questions?
One question you talked about, it's in the law for open discussion about the budget.
Yes.
Where can we find that so we can rebut the legislators when they tell us that's not the law, you got it wrong?
We've got that. We'll send it to you. It's on our website. We need to put that up there.
Absolutely.
Do we have it up?
And you can make sure you hook up with me, and I'll get your email. I'll get your email, and then I'll make sure I send it to you tomorrow.
Yeah, but they can give you the section code number
Yes,
and everything.
we can.
Yeah.
And will.
Yeah. Other questions?
Sir, you had one earlier.
It's been so long, yeah.
Oh, come on.
Come on.